Welcome back, story lovers. Get comfortable, because today we dive into a tale of two brilliant minds and one massive secret that risked it all. This is the story of Aisha, the brilliant black CEO who built her empire on hard-won intelligence, and Jun-Ho, the cynical Korean heir who posed as her translator, plotting to bankrupt her entire life as revenge against his family. This is a story of ambition, calculated betrayal, and a love that was never supposed to exist. Can brilliance save her from the deepest lie? Let's find out. The negotiation room emptied, leaving the heavy silence of defeat in its wake. The high-backed leather chairs looked suddenly deflated, and the vast, seamless glass table reflected the ceiling lights like a still pool of water. Jun-Ho remained, meticulously stacking his papers. He wasn't rushing. He was projecting control, an unnerving calm that contrasted sharply with the jittery retreat of the executives. Aisha watched him, her hand resting on the smooth, cold surface of the table. Her mind was a high-speed processor, analyzing the data points he represented. He was an anomaly, too sharp, too young, too observant to be the hired help. "Mr. Kim," Aisha began, her voice a low contralto that cut through the silence. "You corrected me on the cultural nuance with astonishing speed. Are you truly just a contracted translator?" Jun-Ho didn't look up immediately. He slid a folder into his briefcase, the leather snapping shut with a crisp, precise sound. "In a room full of Chairman Park's men, Ms. Aisha, I am whatever you need me to be to succeed. My degree is in applied economics. Translation is merely a courtesy." He finally met her gaze, and the amusement from before had intensified into a challenging, cynical warmth. "It seemed counterproductive to let them insult you in a way you couldn't counter. I appreciate honesty in a transaction, even a hostile one." Aisha didn't smile, but a spark of reluctant respect flickered in her dark eyes. His use of the word hostile was a perfect, unapologetic summation of the situation. "And what do you get out of my success, Mr. Kim?" "Satisfaction is not a currency I recognize." "Satisfaction," Jun-Ho said simply, the word layered with an unstated, complex history. His gaze held hers, forcing her to contend with the depth of his veiled resentment. "The inevitable downfall of Jaedong Global is a necessary cleansing. I prefer the cleaner method of acquisition over the inevitable, messy collapse." "You are the inevitable." Aisha's internal monologue. The man speaks in code. He's not talking about quarterly reports. He's talking about war. He presents as a tool, yet he carries the arrogance of a king. If he truly wants this company destroyed, he is the single most valuable and dangerous asset I could possess. She rose, the movement slow and deliberate, walking toward the panoramic window overlooking the shimmering, ruthless lights of Seoul. The city felt like an endless, complex circuit board, and she was a foreign piece of hardware trying to initiate a route takeover. "The chairman is offering a private dinner this evening. A courtesy call before the final terms. I assume you will advise." "I advise against it," Jun-Ho said, moving to stand beside her. The sudden proximity, the warmth radiating from him, was a distracting variable. The city lights became a blur of color around them. "Chairman Park will not negotiate tonight. He will attempt to charm, then manipulate. He will use your culture, your success, anything he can't understand, as a weapon to disarm your resolve." "I am aware," Aisha murmured, pulling the armor tight around her resolve. "I built my company in a world that consistently underestimates me. I prefer to face the weapon, not hide from it." Jun-Ho's eyes lingered on her profile, the strong line of her jaw. His respect was a palpable force, an unwanted emotion that burned against his cynicism. "Then I will be your shield, Ms. Aisha. But tonight, we play by their rules." The dinner was held in a private salon of a traditional Korean establishment, cloaked in heavy velvet and silence. The air was thick with the scent of aged soy and old money. Chairman Park, a man whose smile didn't reach his cold reptilian eyes, held court. "Aisha is such a powerful name," the chairman chuckled, pouring an absurdly expensive vintage soju into a delicate glass. "So much passion in that continent. It reminds me of the fire of my youth. Do you still eat that wonderful fufu? My chefs are prepared to try their best, perhaps?" The insult, cloaked in faux hospitality, was a direct hit. Aisha felt the familiar cold rage stirring, the instinct to dismantle him with a single brilliant financial rebuttal. But before she could speak, Jun-Ho smoothly intervened, his Korean deferential, but his delivery precise and subtly scathing. "Chairman," Jun-Ho said, performing the translation with a slight, formal bow that masked his contempt. Ms. Aisha noted that she is particularly interested in the historical profitability of Jaedong's legacy holdings, as that will influence her final non-negotiable offer. Perhaps we could discuss the obsolescence rate of those non-performing assets. It is, after all, why we are here. He intentionally used blunt, technical Korean, jargon the chairman despised, making the old man look momentarily confused and foolish. Aisha watched the exchange. She understood the chairman's escalating fury, but she was mesmerized by Jun-Ho's cool, controlled betrayal. He was risking a beating, perhaps worse, to protect her professional dignity and advance her business position. He was playing a dangerous private game that was entirely his own. "Mr. Kim is very enthusiastic about his new role," the chairman eventually spat, his eyes narrowing on Jun-Ho. "His passion is a reflection of my own," Aisha interjected, her English sharp and final. She offered Jun-Ho a tiny, almost imperceptible nod of gratitude. "I owe you one," the look said. "Use it wisely." Back at her penthouse, the tension from the evening hung heavy between them. Aisha poured 2 glasses of scotch from a crystal decanter. She handed one to Jun-Ho, her fingers brushing his. The casual contact sent a surprising jolt through her. "Thank you, Mr. Kim. You saved me from committing an international incident tonight." "Twice." Jun-Ho accepted the glass, the ice clinking softly. "I merely pointed out the Emperor's lack of clothes, Ms. Aisha. A necessary service." He raised his glass slightly. "To necessary services." They drank, their eyes locking over the rims of the glasses. The shared intensity of the confrontation, the mutual understanding of the power dynamics, ignited a slow, simmering heat between them. It was the magnetic pull of 2 perfectly matched rivals, a dangerous intellectual intimacy. Aisha took a breath, letting the alcohol warm her. "You said you wanted justice for your mother. I can respect that. Tell me why you hate your father's company enough to risk your neck for my victory." Jun-Ho paused, the silence stretching, weighted with the secrets he usually guarded fiercely. He finally spoke, his voice dropping to a low, raw whisper that only she could hear. "My mother was brilliant, an architect. She designed the corporate tower we met in. When she fell ill, my father used her medical bills as leverage to force her out of the company, leaving her with nothing but her shame." He looked away, then back at Aisha, and for the first time, his gaze was genuine, stripped of its cynical veneer, vulnerable. He built his empire on the backs of those he crushed. "I want it gone, every stone of it. I need him to feel the same loss of control." Aisha felt the sharp tug of empathy. Her own success was built on escaping a crushing past, built on the need to control her own fate. She reached out, placing a gentle professional hand on his arm. "Then you and I are not so different, Jun-Ho. We both want justice in our own way." Jun-Ho pulled back slightly from Aisha's touch, the sensation of her hand on his arm searing through the sophisticated control he maintained. The scotch, the late hour, the intimate setting, it was all a toxic cocktail threatening to dissolve his revenge plan. He was supposed to be a tool for her downfall, not a confidant. "Justice is expensive, Aisha," Jun-Ho said, the use of her first name a quiet breach of their professional walls. "It demands collateral." "Everything does," Aisha countered, not dropping her gaze. Her own defenses were wavering. The genuine pain in his eyes was almost unbearable to witness. "But I don't pay with my soul, Jun-Ho. My price is always paid in cash." The charged moment was brutally severed by the shrill, frantic ring of her secure phone. It was her lead negotiator, panic coating his voice like static. "Hostile short-selling attack. Massive. They're targeting the tech subsidiary's core liquidity. We're losing market visibility. It's coordinated, Ms. Aisha. A deliberate crash." Aisha's eyes hardened, her entire posture shifting from vulnerable woman to cold strategist. "This is not Chairman Park," she stated, her voice dropping to a near whisper of professional fury. "This is Vultures. They're waiting for the death rattle. We need a counter-move now. We need information they don't know we have." Jun-Ho stepped forward, his heart pounding, a grim thrill overriding his fear. This was pure, unadulterated strategy, and his own revenge plot was momentarily forgotten in the face of this external threat to their deal. "Vultures are predictable," he said, his voice low and magnetic. "They always move at the weakest point. I know where that point is in Seoul's financial network. My family built it." They worked through the small hours in a frantic, exhilarating harmony. Aisha, the FinTech prodigy, was a torrent of data, calculating complex algorithms to model the short seller's exposure. Jun-Ho was the cultural historian and the strategic insider, recognizing patterns in the attack that were tied to old guard family loyalties and ancient grudges. "The attack is coming through the Hanseong exchange," Jun-Ho announced, pointing to a flickering section of the screen. "It's old money. The proxy is a shell company founded in 1997. It's designed to be untraceable to foreigners, but the name is an old Park family alias, a signature they thought no one would recognize. Untraceable is a challenge, not a barrier," Aisha muttered, her fingers flying across the keys. She was lost in the problem, her brilliance exposed and thrilling. Jun-Ho watched her mesmerized. Her focus was absolute, her concentration a beautiful thing. He wasn't plotting against her. He was actively, desperately running interference, protecting her success with all the dark knowledge he possessed. As the night wore on, the exhaustion of the previous 2 days settled into their bones. Around 3:30 a.m., Aisha slumped back, rubbing her temples. "I'm hitting a wall. The countercode has to be subtle. It can't look like an attack, only a systemic correction." Jun-Ho was immediately there, not as her translator, but as her comrade. He brought her a mug of strong, bitter Korean coffee, exactly how she liked it, a detail he'd picked up during the earlier meetings. "You've been attacking it with American logic. Hit the ethical wall. Koreans respect family duty, but they despise disloyalty to the nation's financial stability. You have to make the attack look like it threatens the entire exchange, not just your deal." Aisha stared at him, her eyes wide with renewed energy. "Brilliant. You use their code of honor against them." She immediately began coding, her speed and precision astonishing. She wrote a brilliant 6-line script, a digital counterpunch disguised as a regulatory flag. "It will flag their proxy as a national security threat and freeze their assets for 72 hours, Aisha announced, leaning back with exhaustion and triumph. "Gives us just enough time to close the Jaedong deal before they can ruin it." Jun-Ho slowly reached out. He resisted the urge to touch her face. Instead, he gently removed the loose strand of hair that had fallen across her eye, tucking it behind her ear. The gesture was tender, unexpected, and devastatingly intimate. "You saved it," Jun-Ho whispered, his voice thick with unearned admiration. "You saved 1,000 jobs and a century of history just to acquire it. Your integrity is absolute." "I save what is worth saving," Aisha replied, her voice now dangerously soft. The adrenaline, the exhaustion, and the profound intimacy of his touch broke through her armor. She looked at him, not as a source of information, but as the only person in this ruthless city who understood the cost of her brilliance. It was too much to ignore. The first kiss was inevitable, a clash of two powerful, exhausted, and strategically aligned souls. It was a reckless, desperate surrender, the moment the careful boundaries of their relationship shattered. It was the chaotic, beautiful surrender of two minds that functioned as one, declaring that the line between enemies and allies had been destroyed by shared brilliance. The passion that erupted was fierce, charged with the tension of their unspoken conflict. It was a chaotic, beautiful surrender. Jun-Ho was kissing his judge. Aisha was kissing her protector. He felt the terrifying thrill of the lie escalating with every touch, every whispered assurance of mutual trust. He adored the woman, and he hated the imminent cost of his deceit. This alliance felt more real, more vital, than anything his old life had offered. In the aftermath, as Aisha slept in the heavy silence of the penthouse, Jun-Ho's burner phone vibrated with a text message that changed everything. He reached for it, dread coiling in his stomach. Text message. The plan continues. The collateral is now you. Eliminate the CEO before the final close. No betrayal allowed. A new, unfamiliar code name. Jun-Ho deleted the message instantly, his face a mask of cold terror. The rival faction within his family, having observed his protective behavior, was now targeting Aisha directly, assuming he had betrayed them. He had to decide, continue the betrayal, which now meant saving her life from his family, or confess everything and risk losing her and ensuring her immediate danger. His revenge was suddenly trivial. Her survival was everything. He wrote the note, a desperate, protective lie. I've taken care of the fallout. I'll see you at the final negotiation. Don't trust anyone today. Jay. He was fully a double agent, the saboteur protecting his asset, the heir falling for his enemy. He slipped out before dawn, leaving Aisha alone with a warning, the wreckage of his plan, and the scent of their shared, dangerous passion. Aisha woke to the cool, clinical light of dawn pouring into her penthouse. The memory of the previous night, the desperate, shared brilliance, the overwhelming passion, the fragile human connection, was immediately soured by the sight of the single, elegant note on the pillow. I've taken care of the fallout. I'll see you at the final negotiation. Don't trust anyone today. Jay. The words were not a lover's promise. They were a strategist's command. Aisha's genius lay in pattern recognition. A protector does not advise suspicion unless he is privy to the danger, or the author of it. The subtle fear she'd suppressed for days returned with cold, sharp clarity. When Jun-Ho arrived for the morning briefing, the air between them was so thick it was almost suffocating. He looked like a man who hadn't slept, his eyes shadowed, his movements tense. But his presentation was flawless, his strategic analysis of the upcoming negotiation even sharper than usual. He spoke of leverage, of calculated risks, of the absolute necessity of closing the deal today. The short sellers will find another vulnerability, Aisha, he said, tapping a graph on her screen. My counterflag buys us time, not victory. Your only safe harbor is ownership. We must hit Chairman Park hard now. And you are still willing to facilitate the collapse of your family's empire? Aisha asked, her voice steady, emotionless. She watched him closely, searching for the tell, the hesitation, the break in eye contact. Jun-Ho met her gaze, his own eyes burning with a sincerity that was heartbreakingly convincing. It is not an empire, Aisha, it is a poison, and you are the antidote. I have a vested interest in your success. His conviction felt real, yet Aisha's logical mind rebelled against the narrative. He was too deep, too invested in this specific outcome. Why? To be continued. Jun-Ho Kim abandoned his entire empire to stand by her side. But when Aisha, the Black CEO, asks the ultimate question, why, the answer risks destroying everything they built the night before. This is just part 1 of the sovereign asset. Thank you for watching. If you want to know Jun-Ho's answer and see how Aisha uncovers the massive, heartbreaking secret, we need to hear from you. Like this video, leave a comment with your predictions, and subscribe to the channel. When we reach our goal for comments and views, we will immediately release part 2 and conclude this dangerous story.